Welcome to the Cobblestone Society Museum. The museum complex is located north of Albion, New York at the intersections of routes 98 and 104 in the town of Gaines. The Cobblestone Society was formed in 1960 and its main purpose was to preserve the rapidly deteriorating 1834 Cobblestone Church. The second purpose of the society was to amass and disseminate information on this unique 19th century building style. Since 1960, the Society has also acquired the school, the ward house, the blacksmith shop, print shop, harness shop, farmer's hall, and the brick house. The Cobblestone Society continues to restore and preserve its properties and acts as a regional museum and center for cobblestone preservation and research. Robert Frasch served as the first president and Carrie Lattin as the first director of the Cobblestone Society. In 1993, the church, the ward house, and the school were designated as National Historic Landmarks by the National Park Service. Cobblestone is a Middle English word. The word comes from cob, meaning a rounded lump, and stone, meaning just what it means today. Geologists classify cobblestones as being 2.5 to 10 inches in length and width. In everyday terms, a cobblestone is a stone that can be held in one hand. Boulders, cobblestones, and pebbles are a glacial legacy shared by the northernmost states and Canada. Glacial action left an inexhaustible supply of rounded stones. Even today, 12,000 years after the retreat of the glacier, wave action along the Great Lakes shoreline continues to polish boulders into cobbles, cobbles into pebbles, and finally pebbles into sand. In general, cobblestone buildings were constructed between 1825 and 1865. The cobblestone building style began in New York State and spread westward and into Canada. It is believed that about 1,200 cobblestone buildings were built, with 90% of them within a 75-mile radius of Rochester. Albion, along with its surrounding communities, is considered to be home of one of the greatest concentrations of cobblestone buildings in the world. Cobblestone buildings employ a construction technique where the cobblestones are laid in horizontal rows with decorative mortar to the horizontal and vertical joints. The uniqueness of American cobblestone construction lies in the manipulation and refinement of the mortar treatment. The mortar was a soft lime mortar that was made of locally dug sand, powdered lime, and water. Local limestone was broken into pieces, burned in a lime kiln, and then placed in water, which caused a chemical reaction in which the limestone became a soft powder. The placing of the hot limestone in the water was known as slaking. To build a cobblestone house, 5 main components were necessary: cobblestones, soft lime mortar, wood for the windows and doors, cut stone blocks for the quoins, lintels, and sills, and finally lots of cheap labor, which would be the builder, the family and friends, and anyone else that could be convinced to work for $1 a day. A typical cobblestone house could easily contain over 14,000 stones. While the men gathered the stones from the fields or shorelines of the Great Lakes, the women and children were kept busy sorting the stones by size and color. The finest, smoothest, similar-sized stones were used for the front of the house, while the rougher, odd-sized stones were used for the back, sides, and interior walls. While the stone gathering and sorting was taking place, the soft lime mortar was also being prepared. When the limestone was burned to its powdered state, it was mixed with the sand and water and then buried in a pit and covered by straw or even cow manure for up to a year. This was known as banking the mortar. The lump of mortar could then easily be remixed for use when necessary. Once everything had been assembled, the work began. The stones were laid in walls 18 to 20 inches thick. The wall was built with rubble stone faced with the cobbles. Elongated or triangular stones were used to tie the cobbles to the rubble wall. The soft lime mortar was the glue that held it all together. It was fashioned to create the straight ridges between the horizontal and vertical rows of cobbles. About 3 rows, also known as courses, of cobbles were built in a day so that the mortar had time to begin the slow process of settling. Once the walls were above reach, scaffolding was built to continue the construction. As the walls rose, the scaffolding had to be repeatedly raised, and cranes and tackles were attached to winch up the heavy buckets of cobblestones and mortars to finish the upper portion of the building. Every window and door was hand-built to fit each opening. Depending on how many workers were employed and their skill level, a house could take anywhere from 1 to 3 years to construct, but once it was finished, it became a fine building that would be able to stand for centuries.
This is the oldest cobblestone church in North America. It was the first building that started the Cobblestone Society in 1960.
It was built in 1834 as a Universalist church and stopped being used as one in 1895. Weddings are often performed there still today.
The chandelier was used to light the whole room. Oil was the source of fuel.
The Ben Franklin was used to heat the whole sanctuary. Coal was the source of fuel.
Donation pouches were used to collect money from people who came to church on Sunday. The money was used to keep the Universalist church running.
Sweet and soft music was played on the organ during weddings and church services.
Pianos were also used during weddings, funerals, and church services.
Vases were used to hold flowers in order to make the church prettier.
Cellos are used to play music at weddings, also funerals, and to sing in church.
Keeping your feet warm was easy to do. All you needed to do was to put coal from a morning stove into the foot warmer, then rest your feet upon it.
The boardhouse was built in 1836 for the minister. It is now a National Registered Landmark.
If you stop by the house, you can see the plaque that states that Horace Greeley once owned it.
When the family needed ice, they would hang this sign in the window. The number of pounds they needed was placed at the top.
Here is the dining room, which was used for entertaining guests and eating meals.
The sewing machine was used to repair clothes and other items.
Cleaning the house involved using the vacuum, which was a two-person job. One person would pump the vacuum and the other person had to move it around the room.
The kitchen was used to cook food, taking baths, and for washing the clothes.
The shape of the bathtub was a sphere, and the kids had to take turns because the youngest goes first and the oldest goes last.
The stove was used to cook, and it was used to heat the iron for ironing clothes.
When the evening came upon the pioneers, you could find them in the parlor entertaining guests or playing games.
People liked to collect knickknacks, such as small statues, and display them in the parlor.
After a person died, they would display them in this cooler so family could say their goodbyes before the funeral. Flowers were usually placed on the top for decoration.
Here is the children's bedroom, which was used for sleeping and playing with toys.
The hair wreath was a wreath made out of human hair and was displayed as decoration.
The Cobblestone Schoolhouse is located on Ridge Road, east a quarter-mile from the church. On the front of the Cobblestone Schoolhouse, there are small cobblestones because they were more fancy than the big cobblestones, which are located on the side.
The school was built in 1849. It was used until June in 1952. Welcome to the inside of the schoolhouse. When the children came to school, they would put their outerwear in a cloakroom.
The children's lunch pails were tin, and they were placed in the cloakrooms and were put on shelves. As you see, this is a display of the teachers' and students' desks as you walk into where they were taught.
All of the students' desks had small inkwells to hold their ink while writing essays down on paper. Most times they would use slates and slate pencils. Calmly and softly the students sung while the teacher played the piano. No student would play the piano, only the teacher.
Quietly, the students would read these books to learn about different things. The pictures in the background were of the presidents they studied. The high globe that is hanging is Earth. That's what they used to learn about geography.
During lessons, the younger kids would sit in this chair made of orange crates. When their feet could not touch the floor, they could put their feet on a wooden stool. The radio was used for special occasions, and they might have listened to the weather or the news. The children earned the radio by selling Jell-O.
The building was built in 1921 by Joseph H. Fagg. Joseph was a blacksmith until 1955.
This plaque shows visitors' history of who made the blacksmith shop and when it was made.
The forge was used to make metal objects using fire. See the tools that are used to pick up hot objects on the side?
The anvil was a metal tool to shape hot pieces of metal into objects like horseshoes, but they can only use a hammer to hit the hot metal. The metal floor was made so that the sparks don't set the wooden floor on fire. If it wasn't there, the building could burn down.
The hammer has a wooden handle and an iron head. The hammer is used to hammer in the nails to the horseshoe and other items.
The nails were used to hold many things together. They also come in many shapes and sizes. Another thing is that they couldn't buy nails in stores like today. They had to make handmade nails.
The horseshoe has holes that the nails go through to hammer into the horse's hoof. The horseshoe is made so the horse's hoof won't break when walking in fields.
The horse carriage used one horse to pull 3 or 4 people. The horse pulls a carriage with 4 wooden wheels.
The print shop was built in 1875. It was used to print newspapers, books, and signs.
From far back, we could see that the plaque is located on the right-hand side of the door. It shows interesting information about this building.
Stained glass windows were used to make the storefront more appealing, as you can see here.
This is the inside of the print shop. The printer used many tools.
The stove is used to heat the inside of the shop. The printing press is behind the stove.
Smocks were used to keep ink off of your clothes. We still use smocks today.
These wooden drawers are used to hold the letters. They come in many different sizes and shapes. These metal letters are called types. They both have uppercase and lowercase letters.
In order to print a newspaper, they had to place the letters and words backwards in a wooden tray. This way, when it was printed, it came out forwards. The letters they used were metal.
This printing press is used to press the papers on the type. This gives you your printed item.
The drying rack was a rack that the printed papers would go on to dry after they were printed.
Welcome to the harness shop. This building was handmade by Star Chester in the year of 1838.
This shop was owned by J.G. Peters, a harness maker.
A plaque like this would be on a building to show how the building was built and its purpose.
All tools would be sharpened on this item.
This device is called a sharpening stone.
A horse would be tied on this stone post while its owner was in the shop.
His workbench was centered so that his tools and materials were in easy reach.
Here are 3 models of what the shoemaker used. The shoes weren't left or right. You could put them on either foot.
This padding was put in the shoes to make them more comfortable. A metal shoe former would look like this.
This is another example of a shoe former or shaper.
A harness that J.G. Peters made would look like this.
In the barrel is Excelsior that J.G. Peters used to stuff the harnesses. This made it softer on the horse's shoulders.
When the harnesses were made, they were shaped on this device.
Here are some examples of harnesses that were made.
A light like this was the only light that the owner had to work with when the sun was not out.
Once again, this is the harness shop. We hope you can come visit us soon.
The Farmer's Hall is a Greek Revival style building built in 1855. It now houses all the farming tools.
This flag is used to give information about the pioneer times.
Since wheat was so plentiful in this area, so were the mice. This mouse trap captures every mouse that goes to get the cheese. When the mouse gets trapped, the people will drown or kill them.
From far away you could hear the bear trap catching the bear. Then they kill the bear and sell the fur for money.
The pig and poke kept naughty animals from getting out in the fenced-in area, or wean the calves from their moms.
Harness was used to pull wagons from the 17th to the present days. The harness is used only by oxen.
Butter churns help the women make butter in less time and less effort.
The smokehouse was used to preserve meat as they did not have refrigerators.
The apple packer was used to pack big apples on the top of the basket and the little apples on the bottom.
These tools were used for cutting the wheat and to pick up hay.
Cyrus McCormick was the inventor of this reaper, which cut the wheat so it could be gathered and harvested.